Hello, my name is Diane, and this is the New Old Nurse. Today, we're going to be discussing the easiest nursing jobs I've ever observed. The top three, I would say, easiest nursing jobs I've observed. Of course, all nursing jobs have their challenges, and if you do one of these jobs, you're probably going to say, "What? This job isn't easy, it's terrible," or "These days have been so exhausting." I know that's true sometimes. I know that can be true for a period, but overall, based on what I've observed, these are the least stressful nursing jobs that you can have. So if you're interested in finding out what those are, stick around. The easiest nursing job I have observed is in the hospital. Typically, that means it's going to be reserved for an RN. I'm an LPN, so I myself have not done this job, but I observed it for quite a while. It is a nurse in the mother-baby unit of a hospital. Now, that is separate from the labor and delivery nurse, or it's separate from like your immediate after birth nursing unit. It's basically where the mom and baby go after they've kind of settled down, they're considered stable, and then they're just really moved up to be observed and be able to rest before they can be discharged home. When I had my children 20 plus years ago, at least in the hospital I had them in, there was no such thing as mother baby. It was just like the unit where people gave birth. And you went into a room where you gave birth and you stayed in that room after you gave birth. So that nurse on that unit handled you whether you were delivering a baby or whether you were 5 minutes from being sent home. I don't know if every hospital is set up the way that it was when I had my kids, if this mother-baby unit is a newer development. I can't speak to that. What I can say is that in the hospital where I observed this, there was a labor and delivery unit where when you arrived at the hospital saying you were having contractions, that is where you went. You were very closely observed. Fetal monitors are all over the place. So your nurse, whether she's in your room, at the nurse's station, can see everything that's going on. It's a very kind of high stress, of course, unit because you're waiting for the baby to come. And it's right near the ORs where if you have to be moved in for a C-section, you're basically just across the hall and can be whisked over there for a C-section. So it's kind of like its own spot within like the women and children's area. There was also another unit, I can't remember the name of it, but it was basically for if you had your baby, but you weren't considered stable or there had been complications, kind of almost like a med-surg unit, but for post-birth moms. And that was on the same floor. So that was all sort of one general area for labor and delivery, OR if the case arose, and then kind of, I don't want to say unstable, I really can't think of the terminology they might have used, but basically if you had any kind of complications or need to be monitored very closely after birth, you went there. Mother baby was actually on a different floor. I don't remember how many floors up, but basically you're whisked far away from where all of the action is in terms of labor and delivery. And it really, for the most part, was kind of just recovery for the moms to, of course, be monitored, for the babies to be monitored. And it was a very quiet, very sort of chilled out unit because that's the environment they want to give to these moms who are so exhausted and to these brand new humans who have just entered the world from their mother's body. And so it was just very, very relaxed. You have to remember, a lot of these moms are relatively young and healthy because they are stable. They've had their babies. They're considered, just ready to rest. So there's not usually a lot of health challenges these moms are facing. They're oftentimes only getting basic pain medication, like a Tylenol and ibuprofen, and maybe like a Colace, a stool softener for post-birth. So you're not typically passing tons of meds in these units. You do have to check them regularly. You also will have the baby in the same room. So they call it a couplet. You have the mom and the baby, and you're checking both of them when you do your assessments. So that's where it could be stressful because I believe in the hospital I was at, you could have up to 4 what they called couplets, which meant you could have 8 patients technically, 4 pairs of mom and baby. But again, in general, they're doing well. That's why they've been allowed to be delivered, so to speak, to this unit. This hospital also had something so awesome that from 1:30 to 3:30, whether that was AM or PM, so either as a night nurse or day nurse, from 1:30 to 3:30, basically it was nap time. It was allowing the moms and the babies to have those couple of hours completely undisturbed. So from 1:30 to 3:30, you were able to do charting, do some of your other tasks, and get that done while your patients were resting. One thing I will say about mother baby is that a lot of the nurses I worked with in that unit said it was not the best unit for new nurses because a lot of skills aren't necessarily used in mother baby. So you're not going to get tons of IV work done. You're not going to, just like a med surg unit or the ED or any of those places where you're going to totally learn all your skills. Mother baby, it's a little bit more chilled out, which makes it, in my opinion, a better nursing job, easier nursing job, but it's not the best for a new nurse. The second easiest nursing job I've observed is in home health when you are the admissions nurse, meaning you are the first nurse that's going to set up the plan of care for that patient throughout their home health services. Typically, this is going to be an RN, so as an LPN, I typically can't do this job, but overall, from what I've seen, it looks like a great job. You are going to spend more time with the patient. Typically, it's going to be about 2 hours, sometimes longer, but that means fewer patients in the day. Whereas a regular home health nurse might see a minimum of 7 to 9 patients, you might see 3 or 4, and you're going to spend a couple of hours with each one. There's going to be a lot of educating, a lot of assessment, but it's not going to be that, I don't want to say more stressful because I do like home health nursing, but just sort of, it just seems like there's less on your plate when you're doing those admissions visits. They're also usually very well paid. And again, I'm sure I could get a home health admissions nurse telling me exactly what the most stressful things are that happen in that job. But I think overall, a lot of these folks are grateful to see you. They're interested in their care. They're happy they've been approved for home health. They're getting home health. And it's kind of a customer service role. You're introducing the company to them. You're introducing what you're going to be able to do for them. And it's just less, I think, time management isn't quite as big of a deal because you are seeing fewer patients. You're expected to spend more time there. You are probably going to answer a lot more questions, but if you're comfortable doing that, I think it seems like one of the best low stress nursing jobs there are. Similarly, for hospice, the admissions nurse, I think, is a great job. They come in, they go over your orders, they kind of learn about the patient. A lot of times if a hospice admissions nurse comes in to see one of my patients, they talk to me about how they've been, how they transfer, just basically what their baseline is. And so they're collecting information and setting up all of the plans that, that can be adjusted as things go on. But it's really more, I think, of a welcoming, a strategizing, and a paperwork heavy job, but it's less kind of sweating, stressful nursing job. The last job that I've seen in nursing that I think is the least stressful is the on-call and or weekend hospice nurse. Now, granted, you're dealing with hospice, there's going to be a lot of death. So if that is stressful to you, this is not the type of job for you. People do die at night. They do die on the weekends. You're going to be dealing with that. So again, not something that's low stress if that is a challenge for you. But overall, the hospice nurses I've worked with are so great. They take care of everything they possibly can. So the people at night aren't dealing with as much because pretty much everybody is got their pain meds set up. If they're doing really, really badly that day or they're on the transition list, the on-call nurse at night is going to kind of know that's going on and will be able to prepare that they may need to go check on somebody. The weekend hospice nurses, yes, they visit patients, they make visits, but they aren't as regular as they are for the case managers who are there during the week. So if you work at a facility on a weekend, you might see the hospice weekend nurse once during that weekend. If something is going on, you might see them both days, Saturday and Sunday. And of course, if something is going on at 5 o'clock and they've been there at 9 o'clock in the morning, you still call them at 5, they might have to come back. So I would say in general, the bad part about being the on-call / weekend nurse for hospice is that you have to probably cover a very large geographic area. But in general, again, as I said about the previous job, about it just being kind of like one of those not this type of job where, like, if you're in a med surg unit, you're constantly running, you're constantly being called, there's things constantly going on. It's not really like that. There will be nights as an on-call hospice nurse where you won't get called at all. There will be weekends as a hospice nurse where you could be seeing 50 people, well, not 50, but a ton of people over the course of a Saturday. You might be seeing three. Just really depends on, of course, how your weekend goes. As I stated in my sort of disclaimer at the beginning, all of these jobs have the potential to be stressful, just like every single job on earth, particularly nursing jobs. But overall, this is from what I've observed and from conversations I've had with nurses who hold these jobs. I have not personally held these jobs. That when you compare them to like an emergency room nurse or an ICU nurse or a NICU nurse, they are just going to give you a little bit more breathing room, give you a little bit more time to react and plan. You're going to be seeing one patient at a time in the home health and hospice roles. In the mother baby, you're not going to be seeing only one. Well, you will be seeing one patient at a time when you go into their room, but you are going to have a constant of however many patients you're assigned. But it's just not, in my opinion, the same level of stress as lots of other nursing jobs I've had and observed. So if you have seen easy nursing jobs that you'd like to share with everybody, oh my gosh, I'm so burnt out on nursing, give me an easy job, please share them below. If you want to argue with any of my points, or let's say educate me on exactly the situations that come up that these jobs are totally stressful all the time, please share them down below. Just vent to us, share with us your stressful stories. We need to hear them. We all need to support each other in this crazy world of nursing. Until next time.